feature. I felt like, okay, I'm getting a bit older. Your eyes don't work so well. Now I can drive at night. I feel like I'm 25.
Maybe my George trip is put on pause.
Not for sure. Well, here he is, George Mienie. Did you have a cold plunge this morning, or was that picture from a while ago?
No, that was this morning, Gareth. Good morning, Simpiwe House.
Ooh, look at you, George. Look at you leading the way.
This morning was honestly the coldest that I've experienced it since I started doing it a couple of weeks back.
Yeah?
It was cold. That water was about 13 degrees.
Good.
And a funny thing happens when you get into that cold water is the condensation out of your breath immediately happens. You immediately kind of breathe that condensation.
Jesus. I mean, like, well done to you, George. It's not something I could do. All right. So what have you got for us on what have you got for us on the agenda this morning?
I was in two minds this morning. I got my feet into the step. I was like, oof, shit, this is cold.
Hell
this
no.
is proper.
Me out.
But I did it. I just plunged and it went. So that's fine.
All right, what have you got for us this morning, George?
First things first, Volvo gave me this beautiful C40 to drive for the last week.
Nice.
It is a really nice car. It's shorter than my I-Pace, taller, feels like a proper SUV, but a really nice car to drive. There's a couple of features on this car that I think Volvo have got right. And the first one is the LED headlights. I didn't know the car had the feature until I went to gym the other night and it was dark. Driving up the road and a car was coming in the opposite direction, and suddenly there was a black spot on the car. The car's brights, the Volvo's brights were still on, but there was a black spot on the oncoming car. And then I realized what technology it had, and it has this LED technology that recognizes where the light's coming from, and then just creates a hole.
That's dope.
Very, very cool.
Very cool, very cool. And then the other coolest feature is the adaptive cruise control. I don't get scared of the car braking. If you're on the freeway doing 120, it brakes in time. My I-Pace doesn't do it so well. I have to really, watch my I-Pace because sometimes the car in front of me brakes and then it takes a couple of seconds before it starts braking. This one doesn't do that. It starts to brake immediately when the car slows down in front of you.
Of course. Well, I mean, those adaptive headlights are incredible. I had them on the Mercedes I was driving for a while.
Yes, Mercedes has it as well. Incredible. And it's the funny thing is everything is still illuminated except the spot in front of you. I think every car should have that tech.
No, it's amazing. Proper. That is the kind of tech that I always, I'm blown away by. Lots and lots of things, but that to me is tremendous.
That's and I think it should be a standard safety feature. There should be a couple of things like airbags. Those kinds of headlights are definitely a safety feature. I felt like, okay, I'm getting a bit older. Your eyes don't work so well. Now I can drive at night. I feel like I'm 25.
Yeah, right. There we go with your bad eyes.
With my bad eyes.
Terrible eyes. Go ahead.
So 4 cars named after horses, Gareth, and I'm sure everybody's going to say Ford Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, but there's a couple of other cars that are also named after horses, or horse type paraphernalia. And it's funny that cars came directly after horses as a mode of transport, and car companies named their cars after horses. Mostly Ford. For some reason, Ford has gone on this bandwagon. But another one is Dodge, a Dodge Charger.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of a Dodge Charger.
Yes, I have.
Now, Dodge Charger, the term Charger was referred to as a cavalry or a war horse back in the days of chariots. Cavalry or war horse. And then the Ford Bronco. You've obviously seen the Ford Bronco. I think, what is his name?
Yeah.
The guy that killed his wife, or allegedly killed his wife.
Simpiwe, do you know? You watch all those CSI channel nonsense, murder, mystery things?
I don't really remember their names. I just remember the crimes that they commit and how to get away with it.
O.J. Simpson, that's it. He was chased on the
Oh,
highway.
OJ, are you joking? Yes, that was the Ford Bronco.
The
Correct.
Bronco.
Obviously.
Yeah. So the word Bronco is used to describe an untrained or non-fully trained horse.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the term Bronco means. And then Ford had another car called a Ford Pinto. Now, Pinto refers to the horse's coat color, specifically the one that includes patches. I don't know if you've seen horses with patches, almost like that.
Like a Palomino?
Yes, like a Palomino with patches, and the term is Pinto, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, all of these names are better than some of the names they give for cars that are unrelated to everything. I mean, it's almost like they're making up these words, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think somebody sits in the design center somewhere and makes these things up. Now, here's an interesting one. You've heard of a Mitsubishi Colt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Colt is defined as a young, uncastrated male horse. I didn't know that.
Yep. That's us, George. We're uncastrated males. I don't know if we're young anymore. But we'll claim it.
Exactly. And then moving on to a question that I think will get a bit of revolt if suggested, and that is: would you pump your own fuel in South Africa?
No. I don't even know where to start. No.
You were straight out of the gates with a no. Okay. Would you, George?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we're spoilt in South Africa, to be honest. With in overseas, you do everything yourself. You clean your house yourself. You make your bed yourself. You wash the dishes yourself. You pump your fuel yourself. So there were two states that had laws that still forced pump attendance, and one of them was Oregon. And recently, in the last month, Oregon has finally abolished the law that attendants have to pump fuel. Now, this law comes from the early 1900s, where it was a safety issue. And they didn't want a person climbing out of their car and pumping fuel and spilling it all over the place and then potential fire. So that's where the pump attendants actually come from. So Oregon is one of the last states to now abolish this law, where attendants don't have to help you. You can help yourself. So it remains to be seen what happens, because usually there's a couple of cents in terms of dollars per liter or per gallon that you save if you pump fuel yourself. But would you do it in South Africa? I don't think so.
I'm not rushing to do it. I think it's probably better that the people who know how to do it, and also for the garages themselves, so that they know what to charge you. I mean, these guys they're good at what they do. They're trained to do what they do. I think it's also employment. It's a job creation. Not a bad idea. Richard has a question for you, George. He says, I'm moving with my wife to Libreville in Gabon. Would it be worth buying a car there? And is it true that you could just use a valid foreign driver's license? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah. So Richard, I mean, funnily enough, I spoke to one of my colleagues about this the other day, because they were going to or came from one of the African countries, and you can use a South African driver's license for up to 6 months in an African country. So up to 6 months, I believe.
You see, Simpiwe, this is why we have George on the show. Do you see that?
Yes. But in that 6 months, do you then have to do a new license in the foreign country?
I'd have to go and look into that, Simpiwe. I don't know. It's just that's about all I know. So you can use it, and I believe it's for up to 6 months.
Okay, how about this question, George? Do you have a favorite stretch of road in South Africa? Mine is Meyringspoort, according to Congo Chris.
Congo, I've never heard of Meyringspoort, but my favorite stretch of road is probably the one going up to the Kruger Park, just after Nelspruit. There's a mountainous area there. That's a nice stretch of road to drive.
Beautiful. All right, everybody. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this morning. George, very good to see you. Thank you to Ben. Thank you to all our guests this morning. And most especially, thank you to you for joining us. We will see you on Monday at 6 a.m. Have an awesome weekend, everybody. Ciao. Bye-bye.